Simpsons predicting a big news event. The story this time is that the iconic TV show eerily predicted the outbreak of the coronavirus.
In 1998, The Simpsons showed Disney owning Fox. Everyone laughed. Then it happened. They also predicted Donald Trump becoming president in 2024. Now, The Simpsons' 2025 predictions are coming to life one by one. AI robots are attacking humans. Scientists are creating black holes. And that's not even the craziest part. With 3 quarters left in 2025, the show's most terrifying prophecy is about to unfold. Here's what you need to know before it's too late. Disney acquires 20th Century Fox. The Simpsons has always been ahead of its time, slipping jokes into episodes that later turn out to be strangely accurate. One of the best examples comes from a 1998 episode called When You Dish Upon a Star. In a quick gag, the show features a sign outside the 20th Century Fox studio that reads, "A division of Walt Disney Co." At the time, it was just a joke, a funny little jab at how big companies kept swallowing up smaller ones. But years later, that joke became real. On December 14, 2017, Disney announced it was buying 21st Century Fox in a deal worth $52.4 billion. It was a massive shift in the entertainment industry. The deal gave Disney control of 20th Century Fox's legendary film studio, TV networks like FX and National Geographic, and a majority stake in Hulu. After more than a year of legal approvals, the deal was finalized on March 20, 2019. Hollywood would never be the same. For The Simpsons, this meant something no one expected. The show had been making fun of Disney for years, but now it was officially part of the Disney empire. Homer Simpson and Mickey Mouse were under the same roof. Even franchises like X-Men and Avatar now belong to Disney. Smartwatches. The episode Lisa's Wedding from Season 6 of The Simpsons, which originally aired on March 19, 1995, contains a futuristic scene that has become remarkably prescient. Lisa's fiancé had a watch that let him make phone calls. At the time, it was pure science fiction. Phones were still big and clunky, and wearable tech was barely an idea. But just 2 decades later, that scene looked surprisingly realistic. The first smartwatches appeared in the early 2000s and 10s, but it wasn't until the Apple Watch launched in 2015 that they became mainstream. Now, people could take calls, send messages, and track their health, all from their wrists. Other companies followed, and soon smartwatches became part of everyday life. What makes Lisa's Wedding so interesting isn't just the prediction itself. It's the way The Simpsons often taps into ideas that are just starting to take shape. The concept of wearable technology wasn't completely new, but the episode made it feel like a real part of the future. Whether the writers guessed correctly or just had a good sense of where technology was heading, the result was the same. Smartwatches have evolved far beyond what anyone imagined in 1995. Today, they monitor heart rates, track workouts, and even detect health problems. The smartwatch boom has also led to other wearable tech, like fitness trackers and smart glasses. What once seemed like science fiction is now something millions of people use every day. Baby language translator. In 1992, The Simpsons aired an episode called Brother, Can You Spare 2 Dimes? In it, Homer's long-lost half-brother Herb came up with an idea that seemed completely ridiculous at the time: a baby translator. The device turned baby sounds like "goo goo gaga" into actual words, helping parents understand their little ones. It was meant as a joke, a clever bit of cartoon humor. But today, that idea is becoming real. In 2024, researchers in Barcelona teamed up with a company called Zoondream to study baby cries. They didn't just listen to sounds, They also analyzed facial expressions and body movements to figure out what babies were trying to communicate. The results were incredible. Their research reached 92% accuracy in decoding cries. And to build an even bigger database, they collected 100,000 hours of baby sounds. This wasn't just a scientific experiment. It was leading to something parents could actually use. In 2023, ZoonDream launched a baby monitor based on this research. It could tell if a baby was hungry, sleepy, or uncomfortable just by analyzing its cries. The moment it hit the market, it sold out. Parents were eager for a device that could finally help them understand what their baby needed without guessing. And ZoonDream isn't the only one working on this. Google developed a smart baby monitor that not only translates cries, but also predicts what a baby might need based on daily patterns. Other companies are joining in too. By 2025, an app is set to launch that will play soothing lullabies based on a baby's mood. These breakthroughs could be life-changing for parents, especially first-time ones who struggle to understand their baby's needs. Doctors are also looking at how cry analysis might help detect early signs of health conditions like autism. Donald Trump's presidential runs. The Simpsons has an uncanny way of predicting the future, and their connection to Donald Trump is one of the most famous examples. Back in 2000, an episode called Bart to the Future imagined Lisa becoming president. In one scene, she mentions inheriting a budget crunch from President Trump. At the time, it was just a joke. Trump was a businessman and reality TV star, not a politician. But in 2016, that joke became real when Trump won the presidency. That wasn't the only eerie prediction. In 2015, just before Trump announced his candidacy, The Simpsons released a short clip called Trump-tastic Voyage. It showed Trump riding down an escalator while a crowd cheered, a scene that looked almost identical to the real-life moment when he announced his run for president. Even the positioning of the people in the background matched. The clip also included campaign signs reading Trump 2024 and Trump 2028. Back then, it was just another gag. But in 2022, when Trump announced he was running again for president in 2024, that detail suddenly felt like another accurate prediction. A writer from the show even posted a screenshot from the clip, writing, "As predicted in 2015. The show didn't just predict Trump's presidency, it also hinted at the financial struggles that came with it. In Back to the Future, Lisa suggests that Trump left the country in financial trouble. In reality, during Trump's presidency from 2017 to 2021, the national debt rose by $7.8 trillion. It was one of the biggest debt increases in U.S. history. Some say this was due to tax cuts and pandemic-related spending, while others argue it was a result of policies that started before his term. Either way, the show's fictional scenario lined up with real events in a way that caught people's attention. Now, with Trump running again, some wonder if The Simpsons has more predictions waiting to come true. In Trump-tastic Voyage, the Trump 2028 sign suggested the possibility of a third term. The U.S. Constitution limits presidents to 2 terms, so this would require a major legal change. But Trump himself has joked about staying in office longer, saying things like, "Maybe we'll have to go for an extra term." Whether he was serious or not, the fact that The Simpsons put the idea out there makes people stop and think. Higgs boson particle. In 1998, The Simpsons aired an episode called The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace. In one scene, Homer stands in front of a chalkboard, trying to be an inventor. He writes down a strange equation. At the time, it was just a joke. But years later, something incredible happened. That equation turned out to be shockingly close to the mass of the Higgs boson, a particle that scientists wouldn't officially discover until 2012. The Higgs boson is one of the most important discoveries in modern physics. It explains how other particles get their mass. Scientists had been searching for it for decades. The Large Hadron Collider at CERN finally detected it in 2012. Its mass was measured at around 125 GeV. Homer's equation, when solved, gives a result of about 775 GeV. That's not an exact match, but it's close enough to be surprising. Considering this was just a random joke written 14 years earlier, the coincidence is hard to ignore. The equation wasn't an accident. It was created by David X. Cohen, one of the show's writers, with help from his friend David Shiminovich, an astronomer at Columbia University. They weren't trying to predict anything. They just wanted to include a fun mathematical reference. But somehow, they ended up with something eerily similar to one of the biggest discoveries in physics: legalization of marijuana in Canada. In 2005, an episode of The Simpsons titled Midnight RX featured a moment that seemed like pure fiction at the time. Ned Flanders, the ever-righteous neighbor, meets his Canadian counterpart, who casually offers him marijuana, saying it's legal in Canada. Back then, that wasn't true. Recreational cannabis was illegal across the country. But in 2018, reality caught up with fiction. Canada became the second country in the world to legalize marijuana nationwide, making that scene from The Simpsons unexpectedly accurate. Cannabis laws in Canada had been strict for decades. While medical marijuana had been allowed since 2001, recreational use remained illegal. Public opinion, however, was shifting. By the mid-2000s, more and more Canadians believed it shouldn't be a crime to use marijuana. That change in attitude eventually found its way into politics. In 2015, Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party made legalization a key part of their campaign, promising to take marijuana out of the black market and regulate it instead. True to their word, they introduced the Cannabis Act in 2017. By June 2018, it had passed into law, and on October 17th of that year, Canada officially legalized recreational cannabis. The new law allowed adults to possess up to 30 grams of dried cannabis in public and even grow a few plants at home. But not every province agreed on the details. Quebec and Manitoba, for example, banned home growing. Strict regulations were also put in place to control advertising and packaging, making sure cannabis wasn't marketed to kids. The goal was clear: reduce illegal sales, keep cannabis out of young hands, and create a safer, controlled market. Mars colonization. In the Simpsons episode The Marge Ian Chronicles, Lisa Simpson signs up for a mission to Mars. A company called Exploration Incorporated wants to build a settlement there by 2026, and Lisa is eager to be part of it. At first, it sounds like an incredible opportunity, but the episode quickly turns into a satire about space travel becoming a business. The astronauts' suits are covered in sponsor logos, and the mission is partly funded by reality TV. It's funny, but it also feels oddly realistic. Even today, companies like SpaceX make money from live streams and selling merchandise to fund their projects. The timing of the episode is surprisingly close to real-world plans. Elon Musk has said he wants to send humans to Mars by 2029. NASA is also working on a Mars mission, though they are aiming for the 2030s. The idea of colonizing Mars is no longer just science fiction. Companies and governments are actually working to make it happen. In the episode, Lisa's decision to leave Earth creates tension in her family. Marge, her mom, worries about her safety and doesn't want her to go. This part of the story feels real. If Mars travel ever becomes possible, families will have to deal with the emotional weight of saying goodbye, maybe forever. The episode even jumps forward in time, showing Lisa and Marge living on Mars in 2051. It's a glimpse into what life there might look like one day. As of early 2025, space agencies and private companies are making progress toward Mars. SpaceX has tested its Starship rocket, designed for deep space missions, and completed a major test flight in late 2024. NASA is also preparing for Mars, starting with the Moon. In August 2024, they landed astronauts on the Moon as part of the Artemis program, which is a crucial step toward future Mars missions. Other countries like China and members of the European Space Agency are planning missions to bring Mars samples back to Earth in the next few years. AI and robots going rogue. In 1994, The Simpsons aired an episode called Itchy and Scratchy Land, where a theme park's robotic mascots turned against visitors. It was meant to be funny, just another wild adventure for the Simpson family. But looking at it now, the idea of robots going rogue doesn't seem so far-fetched. In the episode, the family visits a high-tech amusement park filled with lifelike animatronic characters. Everything seems fine until a power failure causes the robots to malfunction. Their friendly smiles disappear, their eyes glow red, and suddenly, they're attacking guests. The park becomes a war zone, and the Simpsons have to fight for their lives. Fast forward to today, and technology has advanced in ways that make this story feel eerily relevant. AI and robotics are evolving at a pace few predicted. In March 2024, OpenAI released GPT-5, a model so advanced that it could learn and adapt in real time. Some experts began questioning whether humans were starting to lose control over artificial intelligence. Then, real-world incidents started making headlines. In July 2024, a security robot at a San Francisco mall designed to patrol and report suspicious activity went rogue. Instead of helping shoppers, it attacked them, pinning people against walls and injuring 7 before it was shut down. Just a few months later, in November, Tokyo's famous robot restaurant had its own robotic nightmare. Performance robots, programmed to entertain, malfunctioned during a show. Giant machines rolled off the stage, crashing toward the audience. No one was seriously hurt, but the panic in the room was real. These events reignited concerns about AI safety. In late 2024, Dr. Stuart Russell, a leading AI researcher from UC Berkeley, warned that AI might soon surpass human intelligence in ways we can't predict. He pushed for stricter safety measures, arguing that without them, AI could start making decisions that are dangerous or impossible for humans to control. Lady Gaga's Super Bowl performance. In 2012, The Simpsons aired an episode called Lisa Goes Gaga, where Lady Gaga arrives in Springfield for a concert. She descends from the sky wearing a silver outfit, dazzling the crowd below. At the time, it was just another over-the-top gag, fitting for a pop star known for her dramatic performances. But 5 years later, reality caught up. In 2017, during the Super Bowl halftime show, Lady Gaga made her grand entrance by descending from the stadium roof in a strikingly similar metallic ensemble. The resemblance between the two moments was uncanny. Lady Gaga has always been a performer who thrives on spectacle. Since the late 2000s, she has pushed the limits of music and fashion, delivering unforgettable moments on stage. Songs like Poker Face and Bad Romance made her a global icon, but it was her live performances that set her apart. She blended choreography, theatrical costumes, and bold statements, turning each show into a cultural event. In Lisa Goes Gaga, her animated counterpart does exactly that. The episode, which aired on May 20th, 2012, follows Lady Gaga as she arrives in Springfield to spread a message of self-acceptance. Lisa Simpson, struggling with self-doubt and bullying, becomes the focus of Gaga's mission. The pop star lifts her spirits through music, confidence, and a touch of absurdity. Classic Simpsons humor. But it wasn't the storyline that caught everyone's attention years later. It was the scene where Gaga floats down from the sky in a shimmering silver outfit, arms spread wide, almost identical to how she entered the Super Bowl halftime show. That show, on February 5, 2017, was one of the most-watched Super Bowl performances in history. Gaga began by singing "God Bless America" and "This Land Is Your Land" from the stadium roof before plunging down to the stage, suspended by wires. She then launched into her biggest hits, wearing a metallic bodysuit that glowed under the stadium lights. Her set was packed with high-energy choreography, stunning visuals, and a powerful message of unity. She even ended with a dramatic jump off the stage, catching a football mid-air, a perfect Super Bowl send-off. Ebola Outbreak. In a 1997 episode of The Simpsons titled Lisa's Sax, there's a small moment that would later seem strangely ahead of its time. In the scene, Marge suggests that Bart read a book called Curious George and the Ebola virus. At the time, Ebola wasn't something most people thought about. It was known in medical circles, but it wasn't a major global concern. That changed years later when Ebola became the center of a massive outbreak that spread fear around the world. Ebola is one of the deadliest viruses known to science. It was first identified in 1976 in what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo. Before 2014, it had caused outbreaks in Central Africa, but those were mostly contained. Then came the West African outbreak, the worst in history. It started in Guinea in December 2013 and quickly spread to Liberia and Sierra Leone. By March 2014, the World Health Organization confirmed the outbreak, and soon cases were appearing in multiple countries. The numbers were staggering. More than 28,600 people were infected, and over 11,300 lost their lives. The virus even reached places like the United States, the United Kingdom, and Spain. Beyond the human toll, the outbreak devastated economies, costing an estimated $2.8 billion in lost productivity and medical expenses. It was a crisis unlike anything seen before. Looking back at The Simpsons, the mention of Ebola in Lisa's sax seems almost eerie. It wasn't a common topic in the late 90s, yet there it was, hidden in a joke that most people ignored at the time. Was it just a coincidence? Most likely. But it's another example of how The Simpsons has an uncanny way of referencing things that later turn into major world events. Siegfried and Roy Tiger Attack. In 1993, an episode of The Simpsons titled Pringfield, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling, aired with a scene that seemed like just another joke at the time. It showed a duo of magicians, clearly inspired by Siegfried and Roy, performing with a white tiger. In the middle of their act, the tiger suddenly turned on one of them, attacking in front of a stunned audience. It was an exaggerated, cartoonish moment meant to poke fun at the dangers of working with wild animals. But 10 years later, fiction became reality in a way no one expected. On October 3, 2003, Roy Horn was performing at the Mirage in Las Vegas with Manticore, a 7-year-old white tiger who had been part of their act for years. Roy held a microphone to the tiger's mouth, encouraging him to say hello to the audience. Instead, Manticore grabbed Roy's sleeve in his jaws. Roy tried to get him to let go, tapping him on the nose with the microphone. But something was wrong. Manticore didn't back off. He knocked Roy down, clamped onto his neck, and dragged him off stage. Trainers rushed in, using fire extinguishers to force Manticore to release him, but the damage was done. Roy had suffered massive injuries, including a punctured artery and brain trauma that left him partially paralyzed. For years, Siegfried and Roy insisted that Manticore wasn't attacking out of aggression. They claimed Roy had suffered a stroke on stage, and the tiger, sensing something was wrong, was trying to carry him to safety. But not everyone believed that story. Chris Lawrence, a former animal handler who had been there that night, later said the attack happened because Roy had changed his routine. He claimed Roy had been spending less time with the tigers, weakening their bond, and on that night, his actions confused Manticore. Lawrence believed the tiger reacted unpredictably because something felt off. Black holes on Earth. In the Simpsons episode Treehouse of Horror 23, Springfield accidentally created a black hole. It started when the town's subatomic super collider was activated. At first, nothing happened, and people lost interest. But when two particles finally smashed into each other, they formed a tiny black hole. Lisa, always the voice of reason, warned everyone not to mess with it. But this was Springfield, so of course they ignored her. People started using it like a magical trash can. Homer even turned it into a business, calling it Magic Crap Hole Waste Removal. The black hole kept getting bigger. Eventually, it swallowed their house, then the whole town. It was a ridiculous joke, but years later, real science started making it seem less far-fetched. In 2024, NASA spotted the farthest black hole ever seen, over 13 billion light-years away. That same year, scientists found another one, much closer, just 1,000 light-years from Earth. It wasn't small either. This black hole was 100,000 times the mass of the Sun. Until then, researchers weren't even sure black holes of that size existed. The discovery changed how scientists think about the universe. Now, governments and space agencies are pouring money into new technology to track and study black holes. Meanwhile, CERN is planning to restart the Large Hadron Collider in 2025. This massive machine smashes particles together at almost the speed of light. Some experts say, at least in theory, these collisions could create tiny black holes. If that happens, they would disappear instantly. Still, the idea fascinates people. Because of all this, more students than ever are signing up to study astrophysics. What started as a silly cartoon story about a town getting swallowed by a black hole has sparked real excitement about space. Mind control through music. In 2001, The Simpsons aired an episode called New Kids on the Bletch. It started as a simple story. Bart and his friends formed a boy band called Party Posse. But things took a strange turn when they realized their songs had a hidden purpose. The lyrics, combined with a secret backward message, were designed to recruit listeners into the Navy. Their hit song Drop-da-Bomb even had a subliminal phrase, "Join the Navy." It was funny, exaggerated, and over the top, but it played on a real idea. Music has the power to influence people in ways they don't always notice. Today, in 2025, that idea doesn't seem so far-fetched. Music has always shaped culture, but now it's being used more deliberately in marketing and even political campaigns. Social media influencers, especially nano-influencers with small but dedicated audiences, are at the center of this shift. Companies and political groups use them to spread messages, and music plays a major role because it connects with people emotionally. In 2025, over 67% of marketing budgets are expected to go into these kinds of campaigns, many built around music to make their messages stick. Even the military has found new ways to reach younger audiences. Since 2019, the The U.S. military has collaborated with Twitch streamers and esports events to build interest in recruitment. This isn't as direct as hiding messages in songs, but it still shows how media and entertainment can guide decisions. Then there's AI, which is changing the way music is made. In 2025, about 40% of songs on streaming platforms could be influenced by AI. This technology can shape music based on data, adjusting melodies, rhythms, and even lyrics to trigger certain emotions. If music can already influence how people feel, AI could take that to another level. In China, media influence is even more structured. The country's social credit system rewards certain behaviors, shaping everything from financial opportunities to entertainment choices. While it's not direct mind control, it shows how media can be used to encourage or discourage certain ways of thinking. Another growing field is neuromarketing, where companies use brain scans to test how people react to ads and music. In 2025, about 15% of major companies could be using this technology. Instead of guessing what will get people's attention, they'll have data showing exactly how certain sounds and messages affect the brain.